So let me start by saying something that I see all the time, and you may recognize yourself in it as well. Someone, or you, cleans things up. There is some event that happens and you take care of your health. You said, I'm going to get in there. I'm going to start doing all the things I need to do. Maybe you're diabetic and your blood sugars improve. Maybe you have a weight issue, or you're trying to be healthy and your weight improves, your energy gets better, and nothing dramatic happens. No big mistakes. You don't go off the rails. No collapse. No going off the ranch, as they say. Then quietly, the numbers start to change. Not wildly at first, just enough to cause some confusion. And the question that follows almost always is the same. Why did this start drifting again when I'm still doing the right things? If you've ever asked that question, not out of frustration, but out of confusion, you're in the right place tonight. Because that question is not a failure, it's actually a signal. And we're going to be talking about that here in just a little while. Hey, I'm Dr. Dwain Woode. If you're new to me, that's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health and your life, avoid complications, and go to the next level. We're creating the life we've always wanted. I want you to experience here in the real world the successes that you're having in your rest of your life. The same kind of success that you're building in other areas, so you can show up fully for the moments and the people that matter most. You don't need superhuman effort. What you need is a strategy you can trust, a plan you can follow, and the support to keep showing up consistently, not occasionally, every single time. And that's what we build here. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Dwain Woode, MD Live. I have missed you all. If you're new, go ahead and put new in the comments. We'd love to welcome you with a hand clap and some music, and let you know that we are indeed glad you're here. This show exists for one reason, and that's for clarity and for success. Clarity that helps you design a system your body can trust, and for you to have that health that you have been so much waiting for. And so we've got some interesting things that we're going to be doing as we get into the new season. Welcome to wherever you're from, wherever you're joining us from, whatever city, town, village, state, country even that you're joining us from. We are so glad that you are here. And I want to do some orientation. We're going to do some interesting things because I've got my monitors off to the side that we're going to take a look at here in just a little while. I've got my Dexcom Clarity. I've got my Libre. All of those are just sitting off to the side, and we're going to take a look, like I said, here in just a minute so that we can see what that looks like. And I've got my Dexcom Clarity report. Well, let's go ahead and let's take a look at that, right? So here we are. As I've been saying, I have been waiting to get back here so that we can begin this new season and so we can continue the trek that we've been on for our health. So why don't we go ahead and let's do that right now. We're going to hop over, take a look at blood sugars, just kind of getting oriented. And we'll talk more about what the season will look like here in just a minute. So let's do that. Let's look at blood sugars. And we'll see here, this is my Libre. And you see there right now, the Libre says that my blood sugar is 82, and then down below here, you'll see my graph. We can put my finger on there and just kind of run through what's been happening with my graph over the last 12 hours. They're in the 90s, popping up there to about 120-ish, and then back down to where we are right now, 82. I love the Libre. Well, I love both of them. The Libre in particular because it allows me to do some interesting things. I can look at what's been going on with my blood sugar in different ways. And here is my 7-day average. You see I've been, well, not average, but time in range. I've been in range 98% of the time. And I want to go to 90 days because that's where our A1C comes from. So 90 days, I've been 93% in the range. And then looking at my average, and this is an interesting one. A month and a half, almost 2 months ago, we had blood work that we did that showed what my A1C was, and we will do that as a separate show where we take a look at that and walk through that process. But looking at 90 days, you see that my average blood sugar, this number right here, is 94. Now the Libre has been traditionally lower than the Dexcom, which we'll look at in a minute, and so we'll see how that compares right now here in just a little while. But also it breaks it down into the different times of the day so that I can make specific decisions about what I do during the day based on those numbers. And then now let's go ahead and let's hop over. This is my Dexcom, and you see right now my Dexcom says that my blood sugar at this moment is 129. The Libre, if you remember, said that it was 82. Right, so that's a pretty big difference, and sometimes that difference can confuse people. They say, well, why is it so different? Well, remember, they can be 20% off of each other. So if you have a blood sugar of 100, another meter can be anywhere from 80 to 120, and we're kind of seeing that spread right now. Over the last 12 hours, looking at my graph right here, you'll see 140s, 150s is what this thing is saying, 130s, down to where we are right now at 129. And then if I look at the actual report, here is this is my 14-day report, and let's hop over to the 90-day report so we can see what that is, and we'll see that my average blood sugar over the last 90 days has been 116 with a glucose management indicator, which is an estimate, if you will, or a surrogate for what the A1C should be. And you'll see right there it says that it would be a 6.1. So that's what I would expect it to be if I were to get an A1C now. And then let's go ahead and, since we're here, go ahead and hop over and we're going to take a look at what these monitors are saying. And here's my Dexcom, my Contour and my Keto Mojo. And as you know what we do, we'll go ahead and grab a strip, glucose strip and a ketone strip. So brown for glucose, blue for ketones. And then I need a strip for the Contour, and of course we've got our Lancets. All right. So this is, and I hope you've been also monitoring your numbers. This will be a big thing that we'll do as we move throughout the season. So make sure that you are doing that. If you don't currently have a monitor, if you're not diabetic, that's okay. You don't have to be diabetic. You can pick up a relatively inexpensive one, and we recommend you do that because it helps in terms of monitoring the different things that affect our bodies, and that's going to be a big thing for us as we continue moving through the rest of the season. What are different things doing to my body? So here is the glucose strip, and of course here's the ketone. Get that one open and off to the side as well. All right, so here's my Lancet. Grab that Lancet, get that opened, and ow. And that should give me a pretty good drop. Get this one started. That way we'll see what it is compared to, let's go ahead and do this one, compared to what these other monitors are saying. So 85 is what the Keto Mojo says. 91 is what the Contour says. 83 is what the Libre says, and the odd man out right now is, of course, the Dexcom, because the Dexcom says that I was, what did it say? It says I was 128. So that's the one that's way off of the others. Let's get this strip out, and we're going to go ahead and get our ketones going. And as you know, I have not been fasting since last week, and so we'll see what those ketones are. Here we go. All right. And you can go ahead and drop a guess in there. What do you think? What do you think it would be? All right. It's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and 0.3 is what it is. Okay, so 0.3, which is actually not bad. Well, I shouldn't say not bad because, as you know, ketones that are less than 0.5 are considered normal. 0.5 to 1.5 are considered nutritional ketosis, and then above 1.5 considered therapeutic ketosis. So right now I'm in the normal range, which is what I would expect. Which is what I would expect right now. All right, so let's go ahead and let's say hello to some of our community members. I see you guys out there. So let's go ahead and say I see Gian. He says, hi, doctor. Let me get this back. Here we are. Here we are. So Gian says, hi, doctor. Hi, LLG. What's going on, Gian? And Steve saying hello. Hi, Steve. Long time no see. Like I said, I've been excited to get back here and beginning our new season, hanging out with you in the community. I trust that you had an amazing time, and you should be seeing some things out there from me in the social space on our YouTube channel, on Instagram. In fact, we'll talk here just a minute about the format for the season and where we are and what we're doing. But glad that you're here. I hope that you have been excited to start this new year. The first thing that I want to say is, remember, we have not been just kind of laying back over the course of our time. We have actually been preparing for this. So, come the first, everybody was up in arms and they're, scrambling to get their health and their stuff together. And we've already been laying the foundation for this for quite some time. And so this is really just us going into what we've already been preparing for. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and let's kind of walk through that here as we talk about where we are and what's going on. And so you'll see some new things showing up over the course of the last couple of weeks. You've seen a couple of videos come out for me, and they are in order to get us set for what we are doing here on the show. Okay. Traditionally, we've done the show, and then through the week, the show has been the week has been an extension of the show as we talked about different things. And what you'll begin seeing is that we will have those videos that will come out the week before, the show. And so you will have a chance to kind of look at those and walk through those. And then when you come here, then we will have a discussion about what's been going on and the things that you have been doing and the things that you've been listening to. Okay, so that's the plan. So there were 2 that came out over the last week or so. The introductory episode that kind of laid the foundation for what we're going to be talking about here tonight, and then the one that's specifically talking about our discussion for this evening. So go ahead, begin to look at those, and you'll see that as we get into the season, that's the plan. And so we're going to get into that routine. The things that you will still see on the channel, make sure that you are, if you're sending someone here. Just a second. If you're sending someone here to get information, you can still send them to the channel. We still have the Start Here playlist, which is the list that gives you not all, but a lot of the videos that we have done. And these are the ones that help to walk you through the process of this path that we've been on, this amazing path of improving our health. And then, of course, this week's videos will still be there. So as people are coming through, go ahead and make sure that you send them. That's where you want them to go. Okay? All right. So let's go ahead and we're going to jump into our conversation for this evening, because it's a fun one. It's fun because once you understand what's going on, then it makes sense why the body does the things it does, and why you may be seeing some of the things that you are seeing that have been frustrating to you in the past. Okay, so we want to clarify that. That's the goal of what we're doing here, is clarification, because once you understand, then it makes so much more sense, and it stops being this thing where you are where you're having a big challenge in terms of understanding. So let's go ahead and let's do that right now. Here we are. All right, so earlier, as I mentioned, we released the teaching episode on blood sugar rebound. And if you haven't watched it yet, I strongly recommend that you get there, not because you missed something, but because tonight's episode builds on top of that understanding. So in that episode, we established the key idea that blood sugar rebound is not a contradiction. It is a signal. It tells us that improvement occurred, but regulation is still incomplete. And so what we want to do, we're not repeating the teaching. Tonight, what we're going to be doing is we're going to work with it. We're going to take those ideas, take those concepts, and begin putting them into practice and say, okay, how do we diagnose what's been going on? Okay. So now we're in the lab portion of the show. This is where we slow things down and we look at patterns, not in theory, but in lived experience. Right? You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to have perfect data to do this. You just need to be honest and observe what's going on. And so I'm going to walk you through a few lab prompts, if you will, that don't need answers out loud, but I want you to begin noticing, do I recognize myself in them? And as we talk about this, right, we're talking about blood sugars, but this will come back and we'll talk about other parts of our health that follow the same pattern. Right? That follow the same pattern. And so the first prompt that I want to talk about is when people begin seeing blood sugars improve and then get worse, right? So that's the premise of what we're doing. We've got people who come in, they were diagnosed with diabetes. They were diagnosed with pre-diabetes. They were diagnosed with insulin resistance, and their doctor said to them, hey, you need to do some things. And so they got in there and they started doing it. And we're not talking about motivation right now, right? We've already dealt with the fact that motivation is not the full support that you need over the long term. It's great for getting things started, because when you get motivated, you hit the ground. You know, it's the new year, it's the new month, it's your birthday, whatever the thing that happened, it pushes you over that hump and you get started. Great. We love that. And so people are doing the things, they're having some success, and they begin seeing those numbers get worse. You go back to your doctor after you've had some success and your number is going up. And it's like, wait a minute, the same things I'm doing when I first started, when you first said this to me and I started making changes, I'm doing the same thing. And then all of a sudden those numbers begin drifting up, or the weight begins going up, or your A1C, which was coming down if you're pre-diabetic. A1C was coming down and all of a sudden it starts to go back up. Or insulin resistance, right? So we talk about insulin resistance. You go to your doctor and they say, hey, things were better. You were losing weight. The cholesterol was better. The blood pressure was better. And now I'm starting to see all of those things, all of those markers kind of go back in the other direction. Now, it may not be a big jump at first, but over time, gradually, they're getting worse. And so here's some things that I want you to begin thinking about. Do you recognize yourself in this? And so we're going to be detectives, if you will, right? So this is the lab. So we're going to be detectives and try to figure out, well, where did things go wrong? Because that's really the key. You knowing that you're supposed to do a particular thing, or knowing that, hey, I need to eat better, I need to exercise, I need to sleep. You have that in your head, and you've been working at that. Right? So this is not motivating you to do that. You've already put some of those things in place. And then things start getting worse. So the first prompt is, as we're trying to figure this out, is when did the numbers start to change again? Right? Because I was doing well. When did they start going back in the other direction? When did that happen? And not the exact number or the exact date, but in timing. The first thing that often happens is a timing issue. People come in and I talk to them. They say, well, man, I was going along and I don't know what happened. Things just changed. And so we start asking, well, what was going on at the time? Right? So we're listening. Was it after good numbers for several weeks, several months? Was it that the numbers barely got better and then, they got back worse? Or had you been going along for quite some time, maybe weeks, maybe months, and then they start going up? And this often signals relief without full recovery. What does that mean? That means that we did some things that allowed the body to begin healing, which is great, but then we got off maybe schedule. Right? So maybe it's a scheduling issue. Maybe because I have people who change, they have shift work. They go from one shift to the next shift and they begin seeing those numbers change, and they haven't really changed what they're eating. Right? So they're eating the same thing. It may be at a different time, but they're eating the same thing, and those numbers gradually go up. Or maybe it's after travel. Like we had some travel recently. And I noticed my blood sugar is changing. So maybe it was after travel. Maybe it's a new routine, something that it's a good thing, right? So all these things we're talking about, these are not bad things, but these are just changes in schedule. It's a change in your schedule. And anytime there's a change, the body sees that. Remember, our bodies don't like change. It likes to be the same. So anytime there's a change, we'll begin seeing those types of things happening, right? So maybe you have a different meal timing. You and your family decided, hey, for the new year, we're going to be healthy. And so you did some things and it was great. And then now come into the new year, you say, okay, we need to eat earlier. We need to have timed meals. We need to prep and we need to cook, and all of those things, even though they are good, they are a change from the routine. And because there's a change from the routine, maybe that's what's going on. Or maybe there's some increased stress, new responsibilities, right? Family or work pressure, ongoing uncertainty. Maybe there's been some sleep shifting that's going on. Maybe you guys have a new job, or someone is now in school. Someone has gone back to work. Someone, you've been coming out of the end of the year. You have hit the ground running this year, and there's some new, fun, exciting goals that you guys are working on, and so you're spending more time pushing into that. And so what we're doing is we're trying to figure out what was the timing around when those blood sugars began to get off schedule. And so when we're talking about the sleep, maybe we're going to bed a little later. Maybe we're walking a little earlier. Right? Fragmented rest. All of those are changes that can happen, right? So it's a timing issue. It's not a, hey, I'm eating bad. It's a timing issue. Something has changed, and so the time is causing an issue for you. And the key idea here is that patterns show up in time, not just in numbers. Right? So we're always often looking at the blood sugar to say, okay, well, let me see a pattern of the blood sugar. Well, maybe it's not a blood sugar pattern. Maybe that blood sugar, the elevation in the blood sugar, occurred at a particular time. Something changed. And it's sometimes difficult to identify those types of things because we're thinking in a certain way, right? You're looking for a certain thing that will cause it because we've been taught that these are the only things that will cause blood sugars to change. And if we're looking at the traditional things, which we'll get to, we'll talk about those. Those are important. But if we're looking at the traditional things, we'll miss some of the other things in our lives that can cause this as well, right? So that's the first thing. So it's a timing issue. Or sometimes people will say, "Man, I'm doing well, but I've got this new job, right?" So not a timing. Timing is exactly the same. But there's a pressure now. Was there pressure right before the rebound? And pressure does not have to be dramatic. First of all, let me say that. Right. It doesn't have to be like, the house is burning down and, somebody's ill and you're traveling. No, one of the most interesting things interesting conversations that I have with people is this very thing, because people will say, well, I'm not a stressor. Raise your hand if you say that to yourself. I'm not a stressor. Like, I don't stress out over the stuff, right? I just let things roll off my back. I don't dwell on it. I don't worry about it. Now, here's the thing. You may not dwell on it, but your body is still experiencing the stress from that event. I want you to think about that for a minute. We think that stress has to be big and dramatic, and we think it has to show up in our face and show up in our behavior. No, a lot of us actually are very good at holding stress. We have a high stress tolerance, but how do you think we get through that? The body is managing that. So often it's a subtle, cumulative thing that's going on. Maybe there's a decision load, some more decisions that you have to make at home. Maybe there are more choices now that you have to decide over. All right. So we recently became a 3-car family, and so so there were more things that we now had to coordinate. So not things are burning down or things are falling apart, but we had to be now more intentional about. We have to be. I shouldn't say we had to be. We have to be more intentional about connecting with each other and making choices about the things that we're going to do. So more choices. Maybe there's more planning. As we're coming into the new year, into the new season, right? People have all these things that they're thinking about doing in their lives, all these goals. That process itself may be something that produces a change in hormones and ultimately a change in sugar and pressure and all the things. Maybe there's more mental effort. Right? New year, new school, new class, new career, new training. Or maybe there's uncertainty. Recently, we had a lot of people that had uncertainty around job and finances and homes and all those things. And those things themselves, that's a pressure. And so we're not looking to say, okay, well, and well, I shouldn't say we're not looking, but sometimes what happens is we do get into the mode where we're like, okay, you must be doing something wrong. And say that, put your hands up. We say that, okay, you're doing something wrong. Well, maybe it is not that you're doing something wrong. Maybe there's something that has now come in and there's this pressure that's there, and that's causing the unpredictable process in your health. Uncertainty. Work, right? We mentioned that. So new job, or as you get into a different season, the people who may be accountants now, there's starting to be that season that's coming up here soon. Or people who are in business, the end of the year, or people who are teachers, right? And their season changing. Summer is here, and then now it's time to get back to school. Or the other one is you're in school, and now it's time to go to the summer. Maybe you have someone who is transitioning. You've got a teenager, right? Someone who's leaving from high school to go to college, or someone who's finishing college and is coming back home or looking for a career. You have a daughter or a son who's getting married. Those are family issues that are going on. And of course, finances is always in there, right? So you always got to throw finances in there because, money. Right? So do I have enough money? If I'm retiring, if I'm going to retire, if I'm preparing to, if I'm near retiring, did I do a good job of getting enough money so that we can, in our retirement, do what we need to do? Are we going to be sustained? Or if you are on the younger side, right? Am I currently doing what I need to do so that when I retire, right? So you can be on either side. But the idea is that there's that pressure that's there. Maybe there's a deadline that's been moved up. Remember, what we're doing is we're diagnosing. We're in the lab, and think about this as, we're examining your life. And what we want to do is see why this thing happened. So you had a project that you were that was supposed to be due on, I don't know, a month from now, and they've just told you, hey, it's due tomorrow, or hey, it's due in a week. And then mental fatigue, long days, emotional labors. And what you've been doing is you've just been pushing through whatever it is, right? And people say that, they say, I'm going to grin and bear it, or I'm just going to have to put my head down and get through it. Well, yeah, but the body prepares for demand when that's happening. As you're pushing through, right, and you're not worried, the body is saying, hey, I know she is doing what she needs to do. I know he is getting through this. I know they are not worried, but we still have to. How do you think you get through that? Your body's producing or getting ready for that. The body's getting sugar, right? Or getting, let me say, the body's getting ready for whatever's coming or what it perceives coming. And the fastest tool that it has is sugar, glucose. Because think about this: when you need energy, what most of us look for? And this is not I'm craving, candy, cookies, cake, whatever. That's a whole nother conversation. This is okay, I need energy. And so the body functions just like you do. It finds energy. And so you will see in that time that, okay, now the blood sugars they were good, right? And I have not changed. I'm having the same diet. I'm doing the same sleep. I'm doing whatever it is, but now the numbers just seem to be a little higher. And then one of the other prompts, right? So what changed, right? So there's a timing, there's a pressure. How about this one? Did you change something, but you never replaced it with something else? Right? So what changed but never got replaced? Removal helps in the short term. We remove sugar. Yeah? We remove all kinds of things in our lives, right? So we're taking things away, but we don't replace it with anything else. And that creates some instability. Right? So you remove a meal. Hey, I'm going to be healthy. I'm going to start fasting, for example. I'm going to go one meal a day. I'm going to do 16-8. And you just throw it in there, but you did not sit down to come up with a rhythm for when that happens. So right now it's just kind of random. And the body's like, well, I don't know when I'm going to get more food. And so what does it do? It prepares for stress. right? So remove a meal or you remove sugar. So the meals are still good, but that meal now is you've cut back on so much of the sugar, which is what we often say, hey, you need to cut back on sugar. We need to stop the sweets and all, we go through that whole process, which is great. But did we replace it with something? So we took it away, but we did not stabilize. We added exercise, but we didn't get enough time for recovery. So we're up late to exercise, and we don't give enough time between the exercise to recover, because we think, hey, if one day is great, then 2 days is great. And we tell people, hey, you need to have 7 days a week, 35 to 40 minutes per day. And so you're hitting it, you're going, but there's no recovery time. You're getting earlier mornings so that you can go to the gym and be healthy, but you're not going to sleep earlier so that you can get up earlier and still have good time for recovery. So all the things that we are doing are great. I want to just put a pin right there and say that all the things that you've done, amazing. You're exercising, you're getting up early, you've cut back on the carbs, you've cut back on the sugar, you've done a great job with the meals. But did we put something in place of those things? Did we do a good job of balancing what we're doing? Because removing stuff will initially cause good results. But if it's not stabilized, then we all of a sudden start to see those things get worse. Okay? So change creates uncertainty, and uncertainty increases glucose availability, because the body now is saying, hey, yeah, we're going to have to deal with this because I don't know what she's doing. I don't know what he's doing. Okay? So another one of the prompts, and this is a very important one. They're all important, but this is a big one because it has to do with how the body responds to our mind. And so the question here is, what story are we telling ourselves about why the numbers are rebounding? Interpretation happens automatically. Something happens and we automatically interpret it based on our history, based on the way we talk to ourselves, based on our experiences, based on how we were taught, right? So all those things come together, and we see something and automatically we put a meaning to it. And we often have an interpretation before analysis, before evidence. And this matters because interpretation shapes our physiology. What we think is how our body responds. Not because thoughts are magic, but because meaning changes stress signals. I want you to think about this, right? So you something happens at work, at home, somewhere, and you don't have all the information, but you begin thinking a certain way. You've told yourself a story. You've created a story in your mind, and you are stressed out over it. You are anxious over it. You can't sleep. And then, so nothing has changed, but someone tells you the story, the real story. You had one story in your head, but somebody tells you the real story. And guess what happens? All of a sudden, what happened? The situation didn't change, but we assigned meaning to it. And the meaning changes our stress signals. It changes our decision load. It changes our behavior. And so when we are talking to ourselves, the words that we use are very important in terms of how our physiology works. So if we tell ourselves that this stopped working, right? Hey, I've been doing well and it stopped working, it implies a loss of control. So if it stopped working and I'm doing it, I really don't have control over it. So if I don't have control of it, the body says, this is a stress, this is danger. And so we now internalize that because it stopped working. One of the big things that I try to do when I talk to patients and clients is I try to get them to understand that the power is not sitting on my side of the chair or the table. The power is actually there where they are, because they have the potential, they have the power, they have the ability to do that. So if it stopped working and I'm still doing the same thing, then I don't really have control. It increases urgency. It narrows our options because I don't have the control. Or the other thing that we tell ourselves is, I guess I messed up. Right? We don't know where we messed up, but I had to have done something because it's not working anymore. So that triggers self-monitoring. It increases our vigilance. So we get anxious now. Like, people come in and say, well, I don't know what to eat. I don't know what to do. It's almost like that hamster in the wheel, right? It just keeps going. I can't do anything else. So I'm just on the wheel and I'm just going. People show up in my office and they're in that mode because they have done this and they've done that, if they've done that, and nothing seemed to help. It worked. And they'll say that to me. You know, it worked for a little while and then it stopped. And this, I tried that and that was good, but then it stopped. And so they're always on this treadmill. And so now in their minds, I guess I've messed up. And so what that leads to is restriction. So let's tighten it up a little bit more. Or it leads to withdrawal. So when they come in to the office, they often don't even want to engage because they're in this space in their minds. Or the other story we tell ourselves is, I can't sustain this. I can't keep this going. And this shifts the focus from the system to us. So rather than, okay, let me fix the system, is like, well, I can't do it. Not that, oh, hey, I need to find a system that works. It's I'm doing it. I can't do it. And it causes reduced patience. Increase abandonment risk, so that, well, yeah, that's that throw the hands up in the air. I guess, yeah, whatever it is. There's a right. There's a thing where people say, well, I've already messed up, so might as well go all the way in. So what those stories do physiologically is they increase our cognitive load, they elevate our stress signaling, they shorten our recovery windows, and they increase the reactivity around food. So now we are more, we're already on the edge, and anything now pushes us over. So the body responds to meaning, not just to mechanics. We say that again. The body responds to meaning, not just mechanics. So when we apply or we assign meaning to that thing, then it has an effect in here. And remember, the data that we're getting, all these signals that are coming, and I started that when we first started this section. We said that data is information. It's not judgment. And so we're here in this lab. We're looking at it and saying, okay, what's going on? We're not making a judgment. It's kind of like being in the lab and you're looking under the microscope. Or you're doing an experiment. Your job is at that moment is not to interpret the results. And that's where people in experiments run the risk of having bad data. Because as they are getting the data, they're interpreting the data, which is why we do double-blinded, randomized control studies, so that there is no opportunity for the results at that moment to influence the interpretation. We're going to get all the data first, And then now we're going to put that together. We're going to assimilate it. We're going to come up with a meaning. What does it mean? Otherwise, we make changes that are not in the best interest of what we want to do. So we're not judging. We're just saying, okay, wait, is it timing? Is it stress? Is it, right? So that's what we're doing. That's the diagnostic lab frame. So what changed in the regulation is what we want to say. What changed? So I did not change what I'm doing, but something changed. And so I am not finding the benefit that I thought that I need to have. So misreading the signal creates more instability than the signal itself. How many times have you been in a situation, right? And it doesn't have to be in the health, just, in life, where your mind created a scenario that was worse than the actual thing. Yeah. So once interpretation shifts from judgment to just information, the next step becomes clearer. We can look at what the body is responding to, not what we're reacting to. What is the body responding to? So here's a question. Here's the last prompt. So if the rebound, right? So blood sugars were good and now they're getting worse. If it was useful information, what would it indicate you should adjust? Notice the question. Not what did it indicate you should do more, but what does it indicate you should adjust? And that's an important point because often we do more. Hey, that's not working, so I'm going to fast more. That's not working, so I'm going to do more food restriction. I'm going to go to the gym more. I'm going to drink more water, right? So what we're doing is we're intensifying because we think that more is where we need to go. And it may not be a more thing. And notice what we said. Here, you want to hear this? The beauty of this is this. And notice the word I use, rebound. What does the rebound mean? The rebound means that it was good and then it got worse. Come on. So that means it worked. I want you to get that point. This is not it never worked. This is, it worked, so you did something right. And now it rebounded. So the goal here is not to, let me add more stuff. It's like, okay, what worked? What was the thing that worked? So if this rebound, the numbers, whatever it is, weight or blood sugar or whatever your health marker is, if it's rebounding and it's giving you data, what would it indicate that you need to adjust? So do I need to adjust the design? Do I need to adjust areas? Do I need to examine some things, right? So rhythm, my sleep-wake timing, my meal timing, my work-rest cycle, my recovery between demands, between exercising, my sleep quality, or my mental decompression. I mentioned, I may not have mentioned it to you, but I've said before that I do what's called a brain dump at the end of the day, right? So what I dump all that stuff out of my head into my electronic device because I need to get it out of there. I need to decompress. Do I need to adjust my predictability so that I'm more constant with my meals, more consistent with my schedule, more consistent with my expectations? Do I need to work on stability? And stability means, okay, fewer decisions where I have put something in place so I'm predetermined. I have a schedule, I have a plan so that I'm not making those decisions every single day. More repeatable days where I just get up and I know where I'm going. I know what I'm doing. So the body does not ask for intensity. We've been taught that you got to hit it and you got to hit it hard. The body responds to structure and stability, and it grows from design, not from force. So as you're looking at all those things that are going on, the goal tonight was to notice when the numbers changed, to notice what pressure may be present around the time that it changed, to notice what shifted without being replaced. What did I do? What did I take away but didn't put something in its place? To notice what the body might be responding to. What story am I telling myself about what's going on? Remember, improvement is not the finish line. Understanding is. Because when you can read your body signals, you stop chasing the fixes and you start building systems that last. And so what we want to do is we want to carry that with us and begin being detectives in our own life. Things are, because you do some stuff. You may not do everything perfectly, and we're not looking for perfect. But there are some things that you're doing that work. They should work. They should keep working, and they're not. So now let's be detective. Let's figure out what's broken, and let's work on getting that, not by adding more intensity. So take that with you as you go through the rest of this week. And we'll keep building from right here. Because building this is the place that we need to be. It is what helps us to be successful. We're diagnosing so that we can make the changes that are needed for our health. Stay by. We'll continue talking. All right, so if you recognize yourself in any of that, then great. Because that's the idea. That's the goal, for you to recognize you in any of the scenarios, in any of those prompts that we did, so that we can diagnose it. And then once it's diagnosed, then we get to say, okay, I see now where the problem is. So we're not doing a shotgun approach. We're being precise. It's a precision treatment. So if you see yourself in that, right? I'll just drop it in the comments. Say me. In any of those, say me. If you don't see yourself, that's okay. The real work often happens after we get off here. You go and say, you know what? I see that now. Here's where that is. So here's what I want you to carry with you. I want you to carry with you that structure beats motivation, but understanding, evaluation allows you to build the right structure. Say it again. Structure beats motivation. We've already established that. Thank you for the motivation. Got me started. It's not going to take me long. It's not going to take me far. I need structure, which is great. What structure do I put in place? I've got to understand what happened. It worked, and then it stopped. I have not done anything differently. Why did it stop? Let's figure that out. And once we're able to do that, Amazing. Amazing. All right, so let's go ahead. I see some of our community members out there. Let's go ahead and let's see what you guys have been saying out here. Teresa says, hey, Dr. and Gion, what's going on, Teresa? Hey, Teresa from Gion. Teresa says, missed you guys, missed you as well. I miss you, Teresa. How are you? How are you feeling today? And Teresa says, I'm feeling okay, a little tired, rough day, but I'm getting ready to go to bed. I love you all. Gion says, love you. So sorry you had a rough day. Hope you have a good rest, restorative and sleep. Yes, definitely. Good word, Gion. Restorative. Thank you, Gion. I appreciate that. You're welcome. And Teresa says, me. Okay, so she's saying, and she's raising her hand to say, okay, I see myself. I recognize myself in some of what you just talked about. That's amazing. I love it. All right. So remember, y'all, the goal as we are moving through this space is to continue educating, right? So we educate, we empower, and we encourage. We educate, and understanding is a huge part. And so, as we mentioned, you will begin seeing, or you have already seen, that our teaching will happen in those pre-release videos that come out, and they will come out the week before, and then we'll discuss that process on the show, Dwain Woode MD Live, as we did today. So keep an eye out for that. So we educate. That is to get you moving. As you're listening to those, I want you to imagine yourself in them. So it's not just, I watched that one video, it was nice. No, I want you to begin saying, okay, do I see myself in this? And now let me go as we get into the lab, and let's see where we can diagnose what's going on so that we can make changes so I can be successful. All right, so we educate, we empower. Right? So now we're saying, okay, now I got the education, done. Now let's evaluate it. That's one of the big tools. Let's evaluate it. Let's find out. Let's go through a stepwise process of figuring out what's going on so that I can have success. And then we encourage with the community that you're part of, this community that we're here, that we're building. The Dwain Woode MD Live is a space that is designed for us to be here to be successful so that we can support each other, so that we can share the benefits that we're seeing, so we can share some of those times when we're not having the success. Right? We educate, we empower, and we encourage. So you will see that process, so you'll see that pattern. So let's get used to that pattern. When the week before, we'll have the recorded, and it's a short one, and you'll see the last two were between 15 and 20 minutes. So we may have 30 minutes at some point, but 15 to 20 minutes, small, short, so that you can digest that. You can go back and you can listen to it again. As you listen, you will begin seeing yourself there. We're looking forward to you recognizing yourself as we talk about different topics, and then we come here and we look at it and say, okay, this is where I see myself. Okay, so we will have our start of the fast tomorrow as we get into this week's fast. The other change that you will see is our main show, Dwain Woode MD Live, on Mondays. We won't have another show, another live show for the rest of the week. We will have, and we'll let you know when we will be doing our complete fast at the end of the week. But we'll have our main show. Well, let me back up. So we'll have our show where we release the teaching segment. We'll do our main show where we'll do our diagnosis. We'll do our fasting as we get into that initial fast. And you'll probably have one more pop-ups through the week. And then you'll have This Week in Review and video from the vault. So we'll talk more about what that looks like as we move through. But this week we'll be back tomorrow as we do our pop-up as we start this week's fast. Okay, so make sure that you join us. Make sure you join us for that. For those in the community, you'll see that link pop up here in just a little while, and we'll meet after the show. Just always so excited, y'all, to be here in this space with you as we continue working on our health. And as you hear me say all the time, this is Dr. Dwain Woode. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health and your life, avoid complications, go to the next level. We're creating the life we've always wanted. A lot of, and you heard me say that just a little while ago, a lot of what happens in our personal lives happens off the show, happens on our day-to-day interactions with each other, interactions with food, interactions with our health. And so the the Woode Life Design Brief is a weekly short nugget that comes out. If you go to dwainwoodemd.com, you'll see there at the bottom where you can get to be involved with that. It is an amazing way for you to become engaged and begin walking through some personal things that you want to do for your life. There's, like I said, it's just a short nugget that comes once a week directly to your mailbox, or to your inbox, I guess I should say. And it's no spam. We're not trying to blow up your email, but just so that you can have something where you can digest that personally and begin walking through the process of being healthy. So thank you for coming through. Thank you for hanging out with us. Thank you for being here. Always excited. We'll see you as we move through the rest of the week. Go back and watch the shows that we did, or the release of those videos. And then this one is a great one for you to watch because it sets the tone, it sets the pace for what we will be doing as we move through the rest of the season. Thank you for being here, everybody. Have a great evening, and we will see you in this digital space. Good night.